And there we have it. So yeah, welcome to the recording of new decentralized application projects and an intro to Cudos from me and Aisha. So yeah, we are Cudos, and we are really stoked to be a part of the Athena Hackathon again this year. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So this is the webinar in the lead up to the hackathon, which starts in 2 days' time. And yeah, looking forward to being at that one in person as well to help a lot of the hackers there. I am Ollie. I am the developer relations lead here at Cudos. So I am sort of that go-between interface between everything we're doing as a company and the developers out in the wild. So sort of makes sense that I'm here. And I'm also joined by Aisha, who is one of our ambassadors on our developer ambassador program. Aisha, if you want to give a quick hello as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here.
Really happy to have you here as well, Aisha. Your knowledge and expertise is always really helpful. And so, yeah, today we are going to be looking at decentralized applications, or dApps, and a little bit about what Web3 is about in general. In terms of the Athena Hackathon and how we're structured within it, you will notice that there are a few different tracks to the Athena Hackathon, and Cudos doesn't have its own track itself. However, you can participate in any of the tracks you like, and if you use blockchain technology, particularly Cudos, we'll get into a little bit more as to what we offer. But if you get going with Web3 and you use that as solutions for your hackathon submissions, there are extra prizes from the Cudos team as well. And that's part of our sponsorship. And it's kind of a nod to the fact that Web3 is capable of being injected into a lot of different companies, situations, and different areas of computing. And so with that, we think what we built is quite useful for a lot of different industries, and we'd love to see it applied wherever you think it to be most useful. I know from last year, some of us are more new to Web3, so we'll take it from the ground up as to what is Web3 and where Cudos fits within the ecosystem, and where our vision for the future of computing and the future of technology is there too. So I guess for starters, we can have a look through the history of the web, and so where we've ended up now with Web3. So if you look back to, say, the mid-90s, as the web started becoming like really mainstream, and people started actually using it and getting excited about the internet, it was very much a web where it was hosted by those companies that could manage servers and could host content, and the average person was there to consume that content. So you had this idea of, in Web 1, you had this idea of the read-only web, and so with that, yeah, you were mainly consuming what was available across these quite centralized points of server hosting. But things started to change up in the mid-noughties, and very much characterized by the rise of social media was Web 2. And so that gave us the ability to start not only reading from the web, but also becoming contributors to it ourselves. And that meant the whole rise of content creators, the ability to upload videos to various platforms and content to various platforms. And that made the web quite a bit more exciting, because now it was a bi-directional space that we could all operate in. And that's what we sort of know and love today, and what we've seen a lot of, particularly around social media and platforms for content, where we've been able to become our own content producers. And a lot of us have been able to monetize that as well. And operate in that space of Web 2, where it's no longer read only, it's now read and write. And that takes us to the next stage of the web, Web 3, where thanks to a lot of the underlying technologies and the advancements of what we're capable of doing, particularly through blockchain technology, we now have this idea of being able to read, write, and own. And by own, I mean the ability to actually own the content you produce, and you are the sovereign signer and the sovereign owner of the content that is represented on the web. And it's thanks to the likes of distributed databases that have a consensus agreement to them that becomes the norm, and what we can do with Web3. And what I mean by that is, with blockchains, the idea behind a blockchain is the ability for many nodes to come to agreement on the state of a database, basically. And with that agreement across many different nodes, many different entities, without a single point of centralization of those many nodes, we know that if they all agree and know something to be a fact, we can all agree and know something to be a fact. And that allows for that representation of ownership. And that brings us to the era of Web3, where we can build on Web 1 and 2 of read and write, with the additional benefit of being able to own our content and the interactions we make online. So we're very excited about this as a technology as a whole. I think it opens a lot of different doors in terms of taking or being able to empower ourselves and democratize a lot of the web for way more people. And so it also brings us to the ways in which we actually interact with Web3 and the Web3 ecosystems. And that is predominantly through what we call decentralized applications, or a DApp or a DApp, say it however you like. And so we'll see here, a decentralized application, or DApp, is an application built on a decentralized network that combines a smart contract and a front-end user interface. A DApp has its back-end code running on a decentralized peer-to-peer network. Contrast this with an app in the traditional Web 2 sense, where the back-end code is normally running on centralized servers. And so that is what gives rise to that, the D of DApp or DApp, and that's the ability to now have the back end be processed by a network of machines, as is the case with blockchain networks there. And so that gives rise to a lot of interesting applications and a lot of interesting interactions with software by interacting instead in a more decentralized manner. But ultimately, it's working its way towards a future where people actually don't even necessarily know they are interacting with the underlying blockchain, because they just think of it from a user perspective as another type of database. But in this case, that database is distributed and way more pure and decentralized than we've ever seen in the past. It also brings us to what we're actually doing in the space. And so what is Cudos? So we are a sustainable infrastructure platform within the Web3 ecosystem. And so we have two main sides to what we're up to, the Cudos blockchain and Cudos blockchain compute. And so the Cudos blockchain is 100% carbon neutral layer 1 blockchain. So it is proof of stake. So it doesn't upset the environment nearly as much as some of these other proof of work blockchains have. And so, yeah, it's 100% carbon neutral from that side. And this is the layer that runs what we call smart contracts, which we'll get to in a little bit. And that is the layer that allows for consensus to be reached on the state of the blockchain or the database. And so that's the Cudos blockchain itself. But where things get really interesting is what we're doing with what we call blockchain compute. This is a platform for engineers to gain access to sustainable infrastructure through cloud resources. And so with Web3, a lot of the infrastructure still needs to be run, well, all of the infrastructure basically still needs to be run on servers somewhere. And being able to access those servers from multiple providers is hugely helpful in being able to distribute and democratize the access to computing power. So a lot of the big issue with centralized cloud is, well, it's centralized, so it's only located in a few different places, but it also means that a lot of these data centers are quite expensive to the environment for a number of different reasons. If you take, for example, water, they are very, very thirsty data centers. So the state of California alone uses 185,000 Olympic swimming pools of water a year just to keep its data centers cool. That's one state in the US. And so that means that the ability to access a lot of these data centers isn't nearly as distributed across the world because there are a lot of restrictions to environment and the ability to set up these data centers in various places. So that's where we're coming in, and we are democratizing computing by allowing more providers of compute to provide their supply of computing resources to a network, and also with the goal of ultimately allowing people who just have spare computing lying around, such as your laptop when you're not using it, such as also even down to ideally in the far future using your mobile phone to be able to actually both earn you cryptocurrency as well as contribute its resources to a network of computing that can be used by many different people in order to progress the computing of humanity, really. And it's really exciting from the side of artificial intelligence and video rendering to be able to use more devices across the planet that are otherwise going unused. Because effectively, when your device isn't being used to do something, something else will have been purchased in order to do that work, which it contributes a huge amount to e-waste and to unsustainable practices with water, with energy. And so tapping into more of the hardware that's available throughout the planet, I think solves a lot of issues from a lot of those different perspectives. And it's expected that computing demand is just set to increase. And so all of those computing units have to come from somewhere. And we think that using them from places that already exist, such as existing gaming PCs, existing phones, and the like, is a way more sustainable and better way of tackling this huge demand for cloud resources. But yeah, so we've got those two layers, the blockchain itself, and then the ability to ask for more powerful computing resources from the computing cloud side as well. The computing cloud side is pretty familiar to anyone who's interacted with any of the large cloud providers before. So you get access to a virtual machine and you can SSH into that machine, which we should be showing you in a little bit as well. But yeah, I think it's really exciting, those two aspects coming together as this bridge between the powerful computing of Web 2 through servers and the distributed computing of blockchain at the same time. So also good news, Athena participants will get to use blockchain compute for the duration of the hackathon for free. So we'll set you up. So Aisha's also going to show you how to set up a crypto wallet, and we'll chat a little bit about that side as well. And that gives you the ability to have Cudos tokens, which are your payment for performing transactions on the blockchain. And that allows you to purchase units of computing from blockchain compute. So we'll help you get set up with all of that. And again, I'm going to be in person at the event to also assist. So you're welcome to always come find me throughout the event. We're going to dig a little bit into Rust. I won't take too long on this because I can talk about it till the cars come home because I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's the world's most loved programming language. But depending on how deep you want to get into things for what you're going to be building over the weekend, you may or may not use it. So in terms of blockchain infrastructure, the most easy way of interacting is with the functions that already exist on the blockchain itself. However, useful blockchain networks actually have ways of extending the functions that are built within them. And that is done through smart contracts. Now, smart contracts are basically just code logic that allows for additional functions to add functionality to what the blockchain is capable of. And these languages are still Turing complete, which means you can basically do whatever you like on the network, but the more complex your process is on the network, the more cryptocurrency it will cost to run it. But with Cudos, these smart contracts are written in Rust using a development platform called Cosmwasm, which is always fun to say. So it's Rust compiled to WebAssembly in the Cosmos ecosystem, because we are part of the Cosmos ecosystem of blockchains. But a little bit on Rust, world's most loved programming language. It has been for 6 years running, and so it is rather well loved. And this is actually Stack Overflow survey from last year. I should get this year's one, but it is, yeah, very well loved across engineers, and I can't speak highly enough about it. We can see a little bit on it. It's incredibly high performance while ensuring memory safety. It has support for concurrent programming. There's a growing number of Rust packages at crates.io, which is where you can install additional packages and libraries. A vibrant community driving the development of the language. There have been a little bit of contentious things at the moment, but I think those will all resolve themselves in terms of the community and direction. But it is a beautiful language nonetheless, and it's backwards compatible and has stability ensured. So the most interesting side of this is that first point of high performance while ensuring memory safety. Rust has some really nice features to it that makes it a little bit different to program into what you may have written in before, but it does allow you to manage memory. So a lot of languages you may have used before, such as Python, Java, Golang, and the like, they have garbage collectors that manage memory for you. Rust has a different way of managing memory using what's called the borrow checker. So it allows you to operate in a more similar sense to more low-level powerful languages such as C or C#, but with this idea of memory safety built into it from the start. Memory safety, hugely important when doing things that are of value, because a lot of the potential bugs and stuff you can find in code is through various attacks on memory itself. And so Rust is memory safe from that side. And so it protects a lot of the code you're running, which is really important when you're doing things in a smart contract world, because various attack vectors can potentially lead to exploits of value, because you're representing value on these blockchains as well. So Rust is really nice for this, and developers love using it. But that said, depending on how deep into the software you want to dig over the weekend, you may or may not go into that territory of what I say is custom logic for the chain. But we'll dig a little bit more into that in a few slides' time. Here is a study done by Pereira et al. In 2017. So you can see the energy efficiency of various programming languages. And so you can see there that C was used as the index, and C is basically the most energy efficient programming language. So writing your code in C is technically speaking, if everything was written in C across the whole planet, we'd have very efficient and not too environmentally expensive and energy expensive computing. But naturally, we do want a little bit of abstraction to make things a little bit nicer to write. But you can see that some of the languages do make that cost go up. So looking at the Rubies and the Pythons, they're around 70 times more expensive to run from an energy perspective than running pure C. Rust, on the other hand, is only 3% more expensive than C and gives you all of those memory safety features and gives you like a modern programming language to use, while also being incredibly fast, beautifully fast. So big fan of Rust. I think it has a number of great benefits, including its environmental cost if we can start to run more and more things with Rust as well. Here's a few more arguments on my point. These actually happen to be purely by chance that I retweeted 3 different Rust things in a row. This was a little while back, but knowing Rust feels like a superpower. And then Mark Rustinovich, who is the CTO of Microsoft Azure, said, speaking of languages, it's time to halt starting any new projects in C or C++ and use Rust for those scenarios where a non-garbage compiled language is required for the sake of security and reliability. The industry should declare those languages as deprecated, which I think is quite a strong statement, especially from someone who is very prominent in the space. So really, really good for non-garbage collected language programming, and its speed, security, and reliability is really, really awesome. Another tweet here is also talking about the comparisons of building in CosmWasm, which is written in Rust, versus Solidity, which is the popular programming language within the Ethereum ecosystem. And so a lot of people really, really love building in Rust instead of Solidity. I've met some Solidity engineers who talk about switching to Rust and feeling like their hands have been untied from behind their backs. So really, really big fan of Rust and developing using it within the ecosystem too. So CosmWasm, I sort of mentioned, it is the smart contracting platform for the Cosmos ecosystem. So Cosmos ecosystem is an ecosystem of different interconnected blockchains. And so they are sovereign blockchains. Each blockchain stands on its own, but they can speak to each other thanks to a technology called inter-blockchain communication. And so it is quite common across a number of the different Cosmos chains to use CosmWasm as the smart contracting platform. And so some of them do share that information. And it's also really useful because there are shared documentation. If you can build for one chain in CosmWasm, it allows you to port things over to the other chain very, very easily. Since it's ultimately the same code, it's mostly just a redeploy on a new chain as well. And again, it's all written in Rust. That's the primary language for CosmWasm at the moment. But yeah, the Cosmos ecosystem of blockchains is really, really quite beautiful. And it's an interesting way of building interoperability into your blockchains as well. But a dApp isn't just the smart contract. The front end is also important for the user experience. So here we have an example, a screenshot of what's called Osmosis, which is a platform that allows you to swap different tokens. Here you can see that on the screen, we're swapping the Atom token for Cudos, and this is the front end in order to make those interactions. So the logic for that swap is happening on, in this case, the Osmosis chain, which is another Cosmos chain that we are connected to. They're famous for being the decentralized exchange, the swapping of tokens place within the Cosmos ecosystem. And so with that, they have their custom logic, and that custom logic on the chain is then wrapped in a front end that allows people to interact with it through something a bit more pretty than just a command line interface. And so that's where these front ends come in. And that's what Aisha is going to be digging into a little bit shortly. So I also thought to mention there's sort of three levels of difficulty you can kind of dig yourself into for the duration of the hackathon or going into the future as well. Firstly, that QR code in the top right, that has a bunch of useful developer resources for Cudos as well as links to our Discord, and you can even find some contact details for me there. So feel free to scan that and have a browse. But the main source of truth is our documentation. That's a good place to get started with a lot of what we'll be up to as well. But in terms of getting started, your first DApp, I've got here, pick your difficulty level, like a video game before starting a video game. So beginner, intermediate, or advanced. In terms of beginner, a front end, sort of like the Osmosis front end you saw here, that interacts with accounts. So accounts on a chain are already have the logic written for them into the blockchain itself. And so that is for things such as transacting a token from one account to another, which we'll show you in a bit too. And so a beginner level would be just to interact with some functions that already exist on the chain itself. The intermediate level is what Aisha will show you a little bit more of, and that's a front end that interacts with your own NFTs. So if you don't know what an NFT is, it's what's called a non-fungible token. It is basically the same as a cryptocurrency, but with a supply of just one of them. So each one is entirely unique, but a lot of the same functionality happens around those NFTs. Commonly, there are cool images that are associated with NFTs because NFTs, again, represent ownership of something, and representing ownership of a digital image is quite cool too. So at the intermediate level, you have a front end for interacting with NFTs, would be a good second step into building a DApp but I'm hyper cautious that at 24 hours, you want to be doing what will fit for what you are capable of building in that time. And so, yeah, with NFTs, you don't necessarily need them to be an image. You can have them be arbitrary data, such as just a JSON object that can represent something like even a house. So there is a lot happening in the space of tokenizing property and tokenizing real world assets using NFTs and the like. So you're able to create NFTs that represent some JSON data, and that can be representative of an underlying asset in the real world too. So that becomes hugely useful because you can represent ownership in a public way as to things like buildings, like property. It's incredibly useful if you think about areas that are struggling with all kinds of things. Let's take war, for example, appropriate at the moment. A lot of people are having to move out from the places they're living in due to war-stricken areas. And so as you have militaries going through those areas, you can't be sure as to if those militaries happen to destroy a bunch of databases that the government happens to have that says, hey, I own this piece of land, this piece of property. Once the war ends, there's no way of knowing who has access to what they owned before a war began. But if you have this on a public ledger that is across a distributed network of machines that has agreement already, you can recover that code because it's been stored in effectively a distributed database. So it's incredibly useful for applications like that, and I think it's hugely fitting with a lot of the stuff we're doing in terms of democratizing access to computing and the reference of ownership. But thirdly, in terms of difficulty level, your most advanced will be to actually write your own custom logic for the way in which your transactions interact, and you would do that with Rust. So we're not necessarily expecting too many people to get to that point. If you are way more experienced engineers, you may be able to start digging into that with some simple contracts. We've got some examples of, say, like a to-do list app, where there are just a few little transactions that you can make for adding a to-do or checking off a to-do. And that allows you to add some custom functionality to the blockchain that otherwise normally is just good for interacting with accounts or NFTs or more simple transactions. So that custom logic becomes that final step in terms of difficulty. Again, I'm going to be there in person and happy to help you at each of those stages too. And so that actually brings us to Aisha's section. So Aisha is going to be showing you a little bit on crypto wallets, as well as some on the side of how to interact with the underlying chain through the front end that we were talking about earlier. And then we'll show you a really cool tool as to being able to spin this up incredibly quickly, because we know it's really important to be able to get going quickly at events like hackathons, especially 24-hour ones. So Aisha, if you want to, I don't know if you want to take over the screen share, probably makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure, then I will stop sharing my screen and you are welcome to take over there and share yours.
Thanks, Oli. So I'm going to be sharing my screen now. Okay, so I think you can now see my screen, right?
That we can.
All right. So the first thing is us installing the Kepler wallet. A wallet, you use the function of a wallet is it allows you to interact with the blockchain, and it also allows you to manage your own tokens like cryptocurrencies and NFTs on the blockchain. So when we say interacting with the blockchain itself, that has to do with you creating transactions as well as signing them. So as a developer, you're going to write functions and methods that trigger the wallet itself, so that the end users can click on sign transaction or send transaction, whatever the case might be. And it also allows us to read from the blockchain the data that already exists on the blockchain. So let me install Kepler. So the first thing we're going to do is go to the website. This is the web page for Kepler. And if we scroll down, you would see different installation options. Because I'm on Chrome, I'm going to install using Chrome. This is the same process. If you're using Microsoft Edge, you would also use installation via Chrome. And if it's Firefox, then you follow the link to Firefox installation. So I'm going to add the extension to my browser. And because the wallet is like your gateway, it's the gateway to your blockchain account, it's very important that you keep it safe and secure. And access to, we're going to see that when we want to create I'm going to pin it now. So when we create a new wallet, you're going to see that there are different options, and the safest is to create using a recovery phrase. You can also import existing recovery phrase if you already have an account, but because it's for everyone, in case you don't have an account, you're going to click on create with new recovery phrase. So it says here, do not share your recovery phrase with anyone, because access to this phrase means whosoever has access to it can access your tokens and whatever values that it's storing. So I'm going to click this, I've copied it. Usually you can write this as, you can write it on paper for backup, or the best thing is to keep or use it with an external ledger. So I'm just going to copy it because it's for testing. But if it's for my normal wallet, then this is the time where I write it down or put it in an external ledger, in a hardware ledger. So because once you lose this, then you lose all the assets that the account stores. So it's asking me for the first word. So I'm going to input the first word and word 3. So the first one is dial. Usually I wouldn't show this, but because this is okay. A week. But this is a tutorial, so that's why we're showing it. So Athena Hack. I'm going to use okay. So the next step, you would see that there are different chains here. Oli mentioned that Cudos is part of the Cosmos ecosystem. So all the chains here are also part of the Cosmos ecosystem. So I'm going to go to, okay. So to add our wallet, the next thing we need to do is, first, I'm going to go to dashboard.testnet.cudos.org. I want to add so for a blockchain, there are different let's say there are different networks. The main network, which is usually called mainnet, is the network that's live. So that's for the real world assets. And when you want to deploy your let's say your dApps or your smart contracts so that people can interact with it, you do that on the mainnet. But for development and testing purposes, we're going to be using the testnet, which is the test network. So now, if you want Cudos testnet to be accessible from the Kepler wallet, you can come to dashboard.testnet.cudos.org and click on Connect Kepler Wallet. There's also the Cosmos Station wallet, but for the sake of this hackathon, I would advise that you stick to the Kepler wallet. So once I already clicked on Connect Kepler Wallet, and it's brought up this pop-up. So I'm going to approve. So once I approve, let me just click once more so that it actually connects. Yeah, so I'm now connected. But if you go to my wallet, if I go to my wallet, you would see that it only shows Atom. So I need to make other chains visible, other blockchain networks visible. So I'm going to I clicked on Manage Chain Visibility. So now so let me just search for testnet. Okay. So the next thing is I'm going to send, usually for your account to be on the blockchain, you need to send some tokens to it. So if you go to the dashboard, you're going to see the tap icon. It's for the faucet. And it's stated here, a faucet is a way to distribute small amounts of a token to the user of the network for testing and development purposes. So I'm going to let me send 100 Cudos to myself from the faucet. Okay, I need to paste my account. So this is one way of doing so. Save tokens. Yeah. So, okay, so I want to make the what's it called? Cudos testnet visible. I'm going to click on this icon. Oh, sorry, I'm going to click on this checkbox. So the only reason why it wasn't showing up here is because I opened this before I clicked on the dashboard.testnet.cudos.org homepage, before I added Kepler Wallet to it. So this is the recently opened tab, and you'd see that it's now visible. So I'm going to save. going back to my Kepler wallet extension, you would see that Cudos is now visible, and the tokens I transferred are in my wallet. So I can send to someone, I can send tokens to a recipient wallet, and I can also do some other things. But for now, that's what I can buy. If this was on the mainnet, I can deposit, I can also stake or view my staking history. So so that's all for now. The next step is learning how we can interact with the blockchain network. So there are different types of interaction. I think I mentioned that earlier. You can query the data that's already existing on the blockchain, and you can also write transactions to the chain. When you write transactions to the chain, it usually involves you. So let's say as a user, when I want to, so let me make, do an example of me sending. Yeah, I think that's a good way to show how to. I'm going to copy an account and try to send some tokens to the account. So Kepler wallet, I don't know if you can see this, but so this is a test account. I'm going to copy the address and send some tokens to the address, just to show us what a transaction is like. But I'm sure many of us might know how to do that already. But I'm going to send 10 Cudos tokens to it. So I'm going to add a memo, the first thing. Memo is like a small note to attach to your transaction. So the first thing when I click on next is that I am asked if this is what I want to do. Do I want to, and I can view the data that is associated with the transaction. So you'd see that interacting with this chain ID, paying this gas fee, and sending this actual amount of Cudos as I'm paying this amount of Cudos as my gas fee. And the actual transaction, this is the memo that I attached. The actual transaction is send. I want to send this amount of Cudos. Cudos. You know that I'm sending Cudos, but here it's Cudos. What this is about is that for blockchain networks, there is no decimal point. And this allows us, this precision or denomination allows us to send a smaller percentage, or let's say a smaller fraction of the main token denom. So a Cudos is 10 raised to power 18. So one Cudos is 10 raised to power 18 of a Cudos. So that's why we have, if you count the decimal, the zeros after the 10 that are imputed earlier, you would see that there is 18 zeros after. So, and I'm sending from this address. Okay, I'm sending from this address to this address. It almost seems similar, but I think, okay. So let me check the address I'm sending to again. I think I didn't copy the address. Yeah, let me copy the right address. Okay, so I'm sending to this address. Yeah, so I'm going to approve the transaction. The transaction fee is the gas fee. So for each transaction that is processed on the blockchain, you pay a gas fee, and that's the amount that is paid to the participants of the network, the people that provide the resources, the computing resources for you to use on the network. So I've sent that so that is a transaction. That is a transaction that writes to the blockchain. That's what I was trying to show. So now let's see how we can create our own Cosmos dApps or our Cudos dApp using a very cool tooling that makes our work easier, especially since it's a hackathon. We need something that's very fast. So I'm going to open this link, which is it goes to the Create Cosmos app GitHub page, and you would see that it allows us to build dApps using a single command. And to start, we're going to run the command npm install install the tooling globally in our system. So I'm going to, yeah. Please let me know if you can see my VS Code. Is it visible, Oli?
We can see your VS Code, yes.
All right, okay, so let me close this. Sorry. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create Customs app. I'm going to install npm install create Cosmos app tool globally on my system. So while this is installing, let me just show you some things we can use the tooling for, or some of its functions. So the first thing is that we can run create Cosmos app and it bootstraps our dApp. But the other things we can use it for is we can use the example templates, and some of the sample templates this is one of it, to send tokens. And I'm going to quickly show you that. Let me just copy it to make it faster. You can also create a dApp that's used for staking, for proposal voting, for for IBC transfer. This allows you to transfer tokens from one Cosmos blockchain to another. Yeah, I think so. Let me go back to the to my VS Code. It's finished installing. So I'm going to now run the command to contribute what I just copied. So CCA is like the short form of create Cosmos app. If I put create Cosmos app, it would equally work. Create Cosmos app, and I'm passing in the name of the dApp as, or project as, send example, and telling it to use an example template of send tokens. So once I click enter, we're going to see it's bootstrapping our dApp project. And so while it does that, let me go back to the GitHub page where I was showing you the different templates that we can use. So this is another template using Osmo.js. Osmo.js is for the Osmosis blockchain network. There is also Cudos.js, which is a library that's made specifically for the Cudos blockchain network. It is more specific in that it allows you to interact with some Cudos native, like some Cudos specific blockchain functionalities. It's called modules, but because you're new to the technology, I don't know, there will be some newcomers. So I'll just say some Cudos specific functionalities. So you can also look through Cudos.js, and we have some tutorials on how to use Cudos.js. We're going to make that available for you after the call, so that you can use it for your projects if you want to, especially if you're at an intermediate or a more advanced level. So let me go back. So it's finished bootstrapping. So I'm going to, let me just open my file, open folder. Athena, yes. And send example. So time is running. Oli, when are we ending the session?
I think we can run over a little bit. I think we started a little bit late, so for the recording as well. So, and if any of the participants now need to drop off, that's fine. The recording will be available too.
All right, thanks. Okay, so this is out of the box. So let's check some. Let me just run the app first so that we see what's going on the front end. So Jan. So I'm going to run, if we open up package.json, you're going to see the different commands. So we want to run this next dev. Okay, let me go back. So what are the dependencies for this for this tooling that we are using, it has Cosm.js. Cosm.js allows you to interact with the blockchain. I think we mentioned that earlier. It also has other dependencies like Next.js for rendering. If you know React, you can easily build with Next, and you can check out the documentation if you don't. It uses Chakra UI, and Chakra UI allows you, it uses Chakra UI for its components, for its React components, and Chakra UI is quite easy to grasp. They have a very cool 1-hour tutorial on how to start building on with Chakra UI, and I found it helpful. So you can also check that out. And it uses Cosm.js to sign and broadcast transactions, as well as Cosm-Wasm signers. So for people that would be building blockchain smart contracts on Cudos, they would be using the Cosm-Wasm signers. And if you want to use smart contracts, then a good template for you would be, let me just search Cosm-Wasm. There's another one. Yeah, so you would use this template, Cosm-Wasm. And we have a tutorial, there's a video tutorial on that too. So whatever level you are at, we've got you covered. And you can join the Cudos Discord channel to ask questions if you get stuck. So let me go back to, so I've talked about the dependencies. So to start the server, I'm going to run yarn-dev, and it has exposed the app on this. So yeah, let me open it up. So it's taken a while because this is the first time we're running the server. So, but yeah. So out of the box, it connects to the Cosmos Hub blockchain network. But so I can connect my wallet. Let me connect my wallet. So it's going to ask for permission. So I'm going to approve. And yeah, so it can fetch my balance. My balance is 0. I don't have any tokens on that network. So it also has, if you want to learn more about the dependencies, they've got links. I'm going to remove all of this, but this is what comes out of the box. So firstly, I'm going to configure our dApp to use Cudos as the Cudos testnet as the network. Cudos testnet. So yeah. So the next thing I'm going to do is change the coin. The coin on Cudos is A Cudos. This is the smallest denom of the coin. So we're going to change from U atom, which is the smallest denom of the coin on Cosmos Hub, and change it to A Cudos. And let's check our dApp again. So it's changed automatically to Cudos. And you see how fast and a little bit seamless it is. So it would have taken me a very long time if I was building from scratch. So it shows my wallet, my account balance. And yeah, so I'm going to remove some of this, but I think I can leave it because we have very short time. So let me go back to, yeah, let's see how to send tokens. So approve, filter, retrieve account from signer. Okay, let's check the source of that. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, so it might be because of the RPC endpoint. So we're going to make our RPC endpoint specific. We're going to define our RPC endpoint here. So, so asset chains. Let me just check how to do that. I have a project that. Okay, so we're going to import chains from the chain registry, and so the main reason why that is happening is that if we come to the pages here in the index, it's using an RPC endpoint that's probably offline, or maybe there's an issue with it. So I'm going to make our project to use another RPC endpoint. So I'm going to no RPC endpoint using the fallback. So I'm going to go back to defaults and put constant RPC endpoint. So I imported chains from the chain registry. The chain registry provides information about the different the different Cosmos SDK networks. So we can pull information for our for our blockchain from there. That's one way. Or we can even hard code our own RPC endpoint. So I think to make it fast, let me just provide an RPC endpoint from the Cudos docs. I think that would be faster. So let me go here, docs.cudos.org. So let me search for endpoints. Node. Yeah.
I just put a few in the chat, Aisha.
Okay, thank you.
In the Google Meet chat.
All right, thanks. Okay.
So I think that first one might be the one that it's defaulting to and is offline. So maybe just try the second one.
I think that's what happened some time ago as well. Let me check if the second one, yeah, this is available. As you can see, so sometimes when you run into that issue, you can also check which one is online. So you see this one shows some info, so that gives us a hint that it's online. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to now so our RPC endpoint, I'm going to import RPC endpoint from default as well. So let me check. Oops. Okay. So I would use it here. Let me search for it. Okay. So let's check again. Okay, so let me name it something different. Train our pricing point. So if this red wiggle signs come up, you can stop it by Control F9 like this. So use workspace version. That removes some of the errors. So let me go back and see if fetch balance. So send tokens. What's the cause of this error? Let me just check my Kepler wallet, just in case, but it works. Okay, then we have. Okay, something. Okay. I think it was connected to some, I guess the error is caused by some caching, because I uninstalled my Kepler wallet just before this the tutorial started. And if you noticed, it was using an old address. So yeah, so I'm going to, so it's now, the error has been resolved, but it's caused by some, I think some caching. And maybe if you first refresh your browser, that would resolve the issue if you run into it. So I'm going to click on send tokens now. The default out of the box, let's say the out of the box DApp that we are using sends the token to the same address. So I'm going to click on approve, just like it's very similar to what's happening now is very similar to what we did by sending, clicked on approve. So this is the result of the transaction. And let's see if it's been successful. Yeah, so it just displays the result of the transaction. It's sending the token to the same address. So not much is happening, but you should, that's what you're going to do. You should update the template to fit into your use case. So this is just showing you what happens, and let me just go into depth, just a brief overview of what is happening. So the first thing is that, do you want to say something? Oli?
Well, so I just thought I shared the transaction on the Explorer in the chat, so you can actually see Aisha's transaction of a very small amount of Cudos tokens sent to itself. That's what the dApp currently does. But that Explorer allows you to explore transactions on the blockchain, and so you can see that transaction actually completed on the chain itself. So that's the link that's in the chat at the moment. Back to you, Aisha.
Thanks, Oli. Okay, so now as a brief overview of what is happening. So the first thing we did was to change some default settings to Cudos testnet. And secondly, some other things that's happening is that you'd see, if you come into components, you'd see that some of the components defined under the components folder are being used here. So another thing that is happening is that to send the tokens, this is the function that does the sending of the tokens itself. So it firstly gets the signing target client. It takes a parameter called get signing target client, which uses the signing a type of signing target client. And if you go to the definition of this, you would see that it's from Cosm.js. So the signing target client allows us to send transactions to the blockchain and set response, the response that was displayed on the result that was displayed here, which is, if you go to the blockchain explorer that Oli shared, you're going to see that it's going to be a bit similar to what is shown there. So it also takes in the address. So it's what this does is it returns asynchronous call that calls on the uses the Stargate client to create a message, a send message. You see that the send message contains, we first create a send message containing the denom, which is going to be, if you replace this with Cudos, it's going to work. So the amount we're sending is 1,000 Cudos, and to address is the address that is currently signed in, and from address is the same address. So let's check where this address is coming from. One thing about this Create Cosmos app tooling is that it's very good in a way that someone that's just starting can do something very useful with it, and someone that wants to go in depth can also do a lot with it. So if you want to just create a little interaction with the blockchain network, you can use the Create Cosmos app. But if you want to create more in-depth, let's say transactions or dApps that are using a lot of the resources or features of the blockchain, you can use the same tooling. So that's a plus on its side. So let's check where the address is coming from. It's getting it from this wallet status. So you can also read the wallet status. You can also read the wallet status. You can check if the wallet is connected, if the wallet is not connected, and lots more. So that is how we do the sending. So let me go back to that. The send transaction, send tokens. So once it creates the message, the send message, we also create the fee. The fee is the gas fee that we are paying. So it's the amount you want to pay per gas unit is 2,000 Cudos, and this is the maximum gas amount we want to pay for the transaction. So we're now going to for the response, we await the Stargate client sign and broadcast, for you to sign and broadcast this transaction using this address, the current address that is signed into the network, into the blockchain network using our Kepler wallet, and passing on this message, the message here, and paying this gas fee. So to learn more about this, you can, to understand this more, if you go to the custom.js page, that's what I want to, I think it's here. So if you come to the custom.js page, you would see the documentation and some examples of the different transactions, as well as the different things you can use custom.js for. So I'm going to go back to VS Code, and let's check the transaction, or let's check the function that reads data from the blockchain network, and that is get balance. I think it has to do with balance. Yes. Get balance. Okay. So it first checks if the wallet is connected, and if address is not null, that shows that the wallet is connected. So after trying to see where that's okay. Okay, so it checks if there is an address, and if there is no address, this is where we're reading the address from. So once you pass in the use chain hook, it's going to give you the signing target client, the current address of the Kepler wallet that is connected to the blockchain, the status, the connection status, and the RPC endpoint, if you want to use the default RPC endpoint. So we're passing in the chain name from the signing target client. I'm sorry, from the default folder. So let's check what is happening here. So if an address is connected, if an address is not connected, the balance is 0, and we stop there. But if there is an address that's connected, it also checks if there is an RPC endpoint. If there is no RPC endpoint, it's going to log an error that says no RPC endpoint, and no, not an error, the message that says no RPC endpoint. And we're also going to now create a client using the RPC endpoint. So after creating the reading client or the query client, we can now use the client to read from the bank module. The bank module is like it's one of the different modules of the Cudos of the Cosmos SDK blockchain, which Cudos is an example of. So we now read from the balance, passing in the address. What's the address? The address here is the signed-in address, and the denom. The denom chain assets. The denom here is Cudos. The denom here is Cudos. So that's how if you go through it, you're going to understand more, because we have limited time. I'm going to stop here. And so Oli, should I go on to the NFT part and give a brief view?
It might be a lot to take in if we're also doing blockchain compute. So yeah, maybe I'll just show some NFT stuff if participants are asking during the event. What do you think, Aisha?
Okay, I think that's cool. And I can also record a short video just explaining, maybe 10 minutes. Explaining
that would be even better, yeah. Unless you want to just take 10 minutes now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that as well.
Okay.
Okay, so should I push this onto Git, or do you want to use the NFT?
Whichever you choose. So yeah, can maybe do it with the NFT one, and I'll push that onto blockchain compute at the end.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you. So this is the simple project using Create Cosmos app. So I'm going to show you another What's it called? A more advanced project that we have. I'm going to show you that. And what does that? What the project that I'm going to show does is that it interacts with the. Let me close all of this. So here we interact with the NFT module. Let me show you what Cudos node looks like. Cudos needed. Let's go to. Okay, so this is the repository for the Cudos blockchain node. And if you want to run your own node, this is the repository you're going to use. And your interaction with the blockchain, you're actually interacting with an instance of this, I guess, with different instances of this Cudos node. So I'm going to go to the different, yes. So this is the NFT module. The Cudos and other Cosmos SDK blockchain have different modules, and each module is responsible for, let me open that up. And the different modules are responsible for several functionalities of the blockchain. So one of the module is the NFT module. There is also the marketplace module. There is Cudos Mint module, there is the admin, there is the address book, and I'm sure there's also the bank, staking, and other default modules that come with all Cudos, all Cosmos SDK blockchain. So if you have any questions or you want me to repeat something, please let me know to the listeners. So let me go down. So the NFT module, if an NFT is it's the full name or the full words as non-fungible token, it allows you to represent it allows you to represent it could be anything. It could be a real world asset. It could be digital assets. It could be event tickets. It could be something that represents things like monuments, artifacts, or even anything you think about, you can think about on the blockchain. And for Ethereum blockchain network, they use the ERC721 interface, but on Cudos, we have a native module that allows you to create similar tokens that have the similar functionalities. So the different commands, if you were using the CLI, I don't even want to go into that at all, but the different functions that this module has or methods that this module has is you are able to issue a collection of NFT. A collection of NFT has different NFT tokens inside of it, or as its components or its children. And when you issue a denom, or it's also called collections in some places, you can now mint tokens belonging to that denomination. So we can issue denoms, we can mint denom NFTs, you can transfer NFTs, and you can, when you transfer an NFT, which it means you're transferring the ownership of that NFT to a different account. You can also transfer the denom or collection itself to another account. You can burn an NFT, and it has some access control. Only the owner of the NFT can burn the NFT. Similar as transfer, only the owner of a denom or an NFT can transfer it. You can also approve, not only the owner of a denom or NFT can transfer it. You can approve some other people to act on your behalf, like you're delegating the ownership or some control to some other account. So you can, maybe you want to sell, you want to list your NFT on a marketplace, or if you want to build an NFT marketplace, you're going to be using the approve function. And after approving someone to, or an account to be able to perform some some things on your NFT, you can revoke the approval. And yeah, there's also approve all. Approve all allows an operator, which is the person you've delegated your NFT to. You can use it to you can use approval to make the person have access to all of your tokens, in that they can transfer it on your behalf. And yeah, that's that. So another aspect, these are all transactions, and what transactions do is that they write onto the blockchain, like sending they change the state of the blockchain network. But query, you can query things like you can query who owns the denom, the information about a denomination. You can query a denom by its name or by its symbol. You can also query the collection by getting all the NFTs in a denom. Etc. If you go through this, I think you would understand. There's limited time, so I'm going to move on to the actual project itself. So we have okay. The most important part is that you find the different components here, the collection component, the navigation is just simple navigation. The NFT component allows you to view the NFTs and the collections. But let's go to the actual minting of NFT and denomination, creating of denom. So let's go into I'm going to go into the form. Let me go into the form input, the mint. So the mint component allows us to mint NFTs. And the first step in minting an NFT is creating the denom. So you would see that, let me open up another important, this part, the NFT client. So the mint uses a lot of functions from this NFT client class. So if we go to NFT client, if we go to we have the first one is the signing client, the query client, and the second one is the signing client. The signing is a bit silent. So the query client, everybody would understand just by reading the names of the functions or methods. You would understand them. Get all denoms, get denom, get token in collection. We can check if an address is valid. But for the query client, this is the important part. And one thing to note is that the NFT client and this project itself, unlike the Create Cosmos app, here we're using Cudos.js. Meanwhile, the Create Cosmos app uses Cosm.js. But Cosm.js, Cudos.js is built on Cosm.js. And I think before the I'm going to try to create something similar to this and make it available using Create Cosmos app, so that we all have there's only one thing to understand. So, but if you want to look at this would also be helpful, and you would see that the functionalities are very similar. The methods and the functions in Cosm.js are similar to that of Cudos.js. So the first, we only have two things, the issue denom and the mint NFT. You can also add your own, like approval, maybe approve NFT, approve denom. That's if you're creating a marketplace or something similar. And the methods, or let's say the way we are doing things here, you can do different things with the blockchain using the same approach. So it doesn't even have to be NFT. Whatever modules you want to interact on Cudos, you can follow the methods. I mean the approach, not the functions or methods. The approach we use here to do your own, to create your own functionalities. So the first is issue denom. So it takes the denom message. It takes a parameter of type issue message, and you can check what it looks like. Let me go to the definition. So it takes ID, name, symbol from which address, the schema, chain ID, sender. So what we do here is first we get the connected account, then the denom message. We're going to use generate message. Generate message is a function from Cudos.js that allows us to create our own. It allows us to create our own. I think I'm going into advanced topics, but yeah. So it allows us to create our own custom messages. Messages are things you send to the blockchain network. They are the data you send to the blockchain network. So like if you call an API and a post method of an API, if you send post API calls, you send some messages. So the same way we send messages when we want to interact with the blockchain network. So denom message generates message of type message issued denom. The message issued denom is a type that is specified in our, where is it? If you come to the Cudos node, message issued denom is one of the, I'm trying to, this is it. It is one of the message issued denom here. It's one of the messages that is accepted by, I'm trying to locate where it is. So it's one of the message that is accepted by the NFT minting module. So, and this explains the different things it takes. So let me go back. So we're passing in into generate message, the message issued denom. This allows what this does is that it creates it changes, like it creates an encoding, because the blockchain because we're using some method to sign our transactions. It takes a specific type of data. So this formats our JSON, our object, into the type of data that is accepted by the blockchain network. So once we create that denom message, we're going to pass it into pass it into the client. And remember, let me show you this, just to show you some similar aspects of it. This is the first, this is the send transaction sample that we did. Is it? Yeah. So sign and broadcast transaction, it takes the address, the sign and broadcast transaction, we passed in the address, we passed in the message that we are sending, as well as the transaction, the gas fee, the transaction fee. We do something similar here. The address that is sending the transaction, we also pass in the message that we are sending to the network, and we also pass in the gas fee. But here we're saying it should use the Kepler wallet should automatically help us calculate our gas fee and send the transaction without gas fee. So it estimates the gas fee that the transaction is going to use and sends it along. And we check if the transaction is successful using a method from Cosm.js, which is also available in Cudos.js. We assert if the transaction is successful. So if the transaction is successful, then it goes on. It just checks what it does is it checks the blockchain network to confirm that the transaction has been approved and mined. So let's say if somebody wants to transfer an NFT that does not belong to them, then this transaction is not going to be successful and it throws an error. So that's what it does. We also have the mint NFT. The mint NFT mints an NFT under the denom that we just under a denom. that we just went through how to issue a denom. So once how we do this is this is a bit simpler because this uses let me just go to this client. Let me show you how we import. So I import from Cudos.js, yes. So I'm importing Stargate client from Cudos.js, and this Stargate client is what I use. Oh, where is it? Yeah, so Cudos sign-in Stargate client is what I use as the client. So this Cudos sign-in Stargate client that is made available in the Cudos.js library allows us, it gives us this method called NFT mint token. So this NFT mint token is it's very simple in that we can just pass in the parameters that it takes. So let me open up the parameters that it takes. If I go to definition, where is it? Okay, NFT mint token, it takes sender, denom ID, name, URI of the NFT. And that is another thing. The URI of an NFT can be a URI that points into, to make it decentralized, it can be a URI that points into a content identifier on networks like IPFS. Don't let me go too much into that, but it allows us, so IPFS is a decentralized storage network that allows us to store data onto it in a way that it can be made immutable persistently, and the data is secure in that nobody can change what is already there. You can verify that the data is what was uploaded by you, because the CID is just like when you use GitHub. You know, GitHub has uses hashing, and you know when you upload, sorry, do you upload? When you commit your changes, you get a commit identifier. I'll just say identifier. I don't think that's the right word. You get the commit ID, and that ID is specific to that commit. Once you can use that commit ID to view the changes. So that's also one of the it's also part of what is used in blockchain cryptography and everything. So URI is usually for NFTs as it's points to an immutable, unchangeable identifier that goes back to a network like IPFS, where you can view the data that's where you can view the metadata that is associated with an NFT. And one reason why we use URIs for NFTs is that storing data on chain is very expensive. As you saw, each transaction that we created, we attached some gas fee to it. So everything you do on a blockchain network, except reading transactions, you pay for it. So when you transfer things, you pay for it. When you revoke access, you pay for it. So every single transaction is being paid for. So, and data storage is also paid for. So you want to store data that could be stored elsewhere, you want to store it outside of the blockchain network. But then you still want to be sure that the data is one of the positive things of a blockchain network is that the data that you stored is, we believe it's immutable. So it's best that the data that you store on an immutable network is also immutable. So that's the advantage of using decentralized storage like IPFS. So let me move on. I'm getting into depth on that. So it also takes the data recipient. If the NFT you're minting is not for you, if you're minting the NFT for another address, the gas price, the memo, a message you want to attach to your transaction, the gas multiplier is used when calculating the gas fee. So because we used auto, and you'd see these things are not, the memo is optional, gas multiplier is optional, but the other things are required. And you would see, apart from NFT mint token, these are the other These are the other methods that are available on the Cudos sign-in target client. Some other methods that are available, you can also read, like read the group module. You can use, so let me just leave that. You can also go through it on your own. So after sending this transaction asynchronously, we wait for the results and check if, we also assess if the, we also assess if it's, we assess if the transaction is successful here as well. So yeah, that's that. I don't know if I should go through the front end because of the limited time, but this is just
I'm actually thinking, yeah, so we might want to do that separately. I unfortunately only have a few more minutes until I'm hosting another talk actually. But yeah, so if you want to just wrap it out, Aisha, with anything, but yeah, it's super informative on all the NFT side.
okay.
Yeah.
So I think the let me just check. I think that's all. Yeah, I think that's all from me. Except that we're going to share some other links for you to go through. And there's a tutorial, there's an in-depth tutorial, written tutorial on what I just explained. And it's more, where is it? Yeah, there's a more in-depth tutorial here. I'm going to share the link with you. Another thing is that for the Create Cosmos app, there are some video tutorials that you can watch here. So I've added the link here for you as well. And yeah, that's all from me. Oli, that's all from me. Thanks for being with me.
No, great stuff, Aisha. All of your knowledge is so helpful. Hopefully we can get some of your time remotely, asynchronously over the weekend, if you're around on Discord as well. I think that might be helpful to some of the participants there too. So I don't know how busy you are. Otherwise, I'll be there in person. So.
Okay, I think I would make sure I'm available on that day.
That would be, yeah, that would be awesome. It would go a long way for a lot of these hackers. But yeah, so actually, I think I'm going to have to do some closing words. But first, I want to show you just a link to what I was going to show in person here. So I'll post that into the chat now, and I'll also share it into the coding section of the Athena community Discord as well, so that it's available there. So that's a link to a YouTube video of me running through actually deploying your Create Cosmos app onto Cudos Blockchain Compute, or CBC, Cudos Blockchain Compute. And that's actually a really useful watch. And that's a really good way of getting things live into a server that you can then share as part of the demo. And you can actually have people in the audience log into it as well. It runs through it quite simply. It takes 8 minutes if you've got an SSH key, which also takes a few minutes to create. So that's a nice simple one that also gets you that quick win of being able to have the server actually running your compute. Again, more than happy to help in person. That video I do think is going to be hugely helpful. And but yeah, as I say, I'll be there for the event itself, and you're more than welcome to ask me questions, and I can help you get set up throughout there as well. But yeah, so I think as final words, we again, just to clarify, we don't have our own track for the hackathon itself, so you can choose any track you like from any of the other teams there. And as long as you use Cudos tech, there are some additional prizes in the works there for those of you who want to try things as a Web3 approach to a lot of this, which is really exciting for those looking to get into Web3. And we're here to support that journey as well. But yeah, so I think if there are any questions, I can see some thanks in the chat. So thanks, Layla, as well. Thanks for being here. And to those watching on the recording, let me know if you need anything more. I'm around on Discord. You'll see I just posted into the coding channel on the Athena community Discord. But you can also join our Discord, and you can also use that Linktree QR code that was up earlier. Let me see if I can get that up very quickly for you too. If you want to also just share or just scan that QR code, it should be on the screen now again. And that has some resources for you that points to a lot of the useful stuff for building on Cudos, as well as the Cudos Discord if you'd like to reach out to me, either on the Cudos Discord or on the Athena Discord. I will be around for both, but importantly, at the event in person, do find me. I'll have a chat on the stage and initially, so in that initial introduction. So I'll tell you a little bit more there, and I am looking forward to it hugely. So thanks all for joining. Thank you so much to Aisha for all of your knowledge on the Cosm.js NFT and the wallet side as well. That's all really helpful, and I think goes a long way for these participants. So yeah, much appreciated there. And I will catch you all in person in a couple of days' time over near Liverpool Street in London. Looking very much forward to it. Thanks for joining. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks again to Aisha, and we'll catch you then. That's it from me. So adios.